You know, as I was listening to the last program, there was one point at which we called a busy signal in a crossbar 1 in New York. And of course, I've not just been listening to these, but I've been working on them, so I've had to hear this stuff for a few days now. And it just sounded like a foreign country. What is this kind of a thing here? So I've gotten so acclimated to the Florida motor switch world that New York sounds strange to me now. But in March 1978, what was strange was the telephone switch I was exploring from a phone booth on State Route 40 in the Silver Springs area. It took a long time to make sense, only partial sense, of the sounds I was hearing from that payphone. And it wasn't like the stuff you heard in the last program that was easy, relatively speaking. It was more like the stuff you heard in program 1. Let's pick up and get a dial tone, put in 2 nickels, and dial a 6. Okay, that's the first digit, and there's already an overwhelmingly confusing number of elements here. After the dial comes back to rest, we hear a loud hum. That's the coin register sender. You don't get this from home phones, just coin phones. We heard this at the 2 stops in program 1. The coin register sender always operates through the entire call, and anytime I dial a digit, no matter what else is going on, that thing is the first thing you hear when the dial comes back to rest. And now the line is timed out because
I'm sorry.
I was just sitting there talking, acting as if,
You can talk about all day.
which I can't right now because I dialed only 1 digit. Later on down the line, I can. And the register senders will still be there. That's what's so confusing about this switch. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about the coin register sender. It puts on the loud hum for us. Meanwhile, it is dialing the digit I dial. And then it cuts back with that tick and lets you hear what's underneath. What's underneath, in the case of this first digit, is a second register sender, which does let you hear the dialing. And that's followed by a distinctive tick. Let me start this over, and I'll point out the register senders. That's the first, that's the second, and that's the distinctive tick. Now, that distinctive tick, I think, indicates a switching operation. In listening to these tapes more and more, I don't think all of the switching operations make the obvious hunting noise. Sometimes there's a hunt going on that doesn't make that noise, and I think a switching operation has already occurred, just with our dialing that first digit, the tick being the indication that it has occurred. Now I'm going to dial a 9. That was 2 register senders, one and then the next, dialing the 9. After the second register sender dialed the 9, there was an obvious switching operation with the hunting noise and the sound of a cut through to the Ocala step tandem. We're now sitting on the Ocala step tandem, but there's still a hum on the line indicating that this office still has some sort of smarts on the line to see what digit we dial next. It's going to be a 4. After I dialed the 4, there was a coin test, and then the coin register sender, the first one, cut back just in time to hear a step cut-in noise. That was the sound of the downtown tandem connecting us to the trunk to 694, an Ocala office code, which is Stromberg XY. At this point, we're sitting on the incoming side of a Stromberg XY, which operates like a step. It's passive, doesn't have a register sender or anything else that's going to time out. The tandem we're going through is also a passive step tandem, and the originating office we're calling from is no longer listening to see what we dial. It will continue to use the register senders to redial what we dial, but remember that local hum that we were hearing between the 9 and the 4? Of course not. It's way too confusing. But anyway, that hum is off the line now, and I think we are safe. In other words, I can sit here and...
You can settle down. What the hell?
Sorry, I was all set to bleep you there and you threw me. But anyway, we're on this trunk to the XY. Let's dial the last four digits. So that's the best I can do to explain the kind of noises that we hear as we're putting a call through the local tandem. I'm going to use the term step tandem in spite of the fact that it's a Stromberg XY. I just now found that out. When we dialed a 4, it made a Stromberg low tone sound, giving it away. I'm going to use the term XY for the offices we call that are XY because that really makes a difference to what we hear. You hear rings like the one we just got, for example, and here's a call to intercept in 694. We pretty much didn't hear the second register sender dialing that time. It was very low and very short. Now it has connected us to the tandem trunk, but there's still that hum on the line. It's still listening for some reason, even though it won't censor me if I dial a digit other than 4. This time I will dial a 4. Being the third digit, the coin register sender will do the coin test during the hum, and then after that we'll find ourselves on this same trunk with this hum gone. There, same trunk, no hum.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling, 904-694.
Well, I think that was a pretty good reconstructed simulation of the way the calls really sounded. Yes, I had to restore that, going to extraordinary measures, because the original tape, well, let's just play the original tape. Here's that first call to the ring in 694 without anything modified. This is just the way it comes off the cassette, as loud as it goes. In some ways, that's actually better than what you just heard before, because it has the true dynamic range, but it's all lost in the tape noise. This payphone had some sort of a protection device on it that made everything softer than usual. And that's part of the reason why everything on this tape is kind of lost in the noise. I don't know what they were thinking with this thing. When something got really loud, like John Doyle's voice, it would actually start clicking as if it were trying to protect the network from some customer-provided equipment that constituted a threat.
We will send a large, burly serviceman to your home to rip it out of the wall.
Here's a call to a vacant code, 36, which goes to an intercept recording that triggers the protection device just because it's so loud.
sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording. 904-236. I'm sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording. 904-236. I'm sorry.
Here you can hear that high-pitched tone that I had to bring to the forefront in my recreation. Isn't this ridiculous? I mean, people go to these lengths to save old recordings of Enrico Caruso, but I just had to hear without the tape noise. It's a nice sound. But to do that, I could not remove the tape noise. There is no such technology as that. So I had to actually put it back together from the 1982 tape and synthesize part of the sound. That's why I can't continue with this way of presenting the calls. I have to let the real calls play. But it showed you the sounds really clearly, and you can get a good idea from those previous examples of what is happening underneath the tape noise and what comes up. I won't be talking too much more about the motor switch noises. We can only get little bits and pieces of how it's working. So let's just enjoy the noises and let it be a little bit mysterious. What I will talk about is the local routing system, which is very straightforward and kind of interesting. It turned out that the code 694 was wired in a particular way that I could dial 69, have it set up a call to the downtown tandem, which was an XY step, and then dial any digit I wanted. At that point, it would drop out and let me keep right on dialing. This allowed me to explore the tandem and try all the cryptic codes to see where each one went. Some of the codes weren't actually cryptic. For example, 622 and 629 were on 2 and 9 respectively. 622 and 629 are definitely in the same building, and the very fact that they appear on different levels in the tandem strongly suggests that the tandem is the 622-629 XY step. But from the tapes we cannot tell for sure. There are two tone plants in the building. One of them is typical Stromberg XY. The other is modern tones, and you hear them in various combinations. Here's a call to a vacant number in 629. We hear an XY type ring on the actual line. Then when it goes into the intercept trunk, we hear a modern ring. I'll dial this using the actual code 629. The switch here waits for the third digit, then picks up a trunk to the tandem, and then dials the 9 into it.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling. 904-622-629.
That was a vacant number in 629. Now here's a vacant level dialed the other way. I'll dial 69 to set up the call to the tandem, and then dial a 9, which selects 629 directly, then one more digit that's a vacant level. Oh, really?
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling, 904-622-629.
(622) goes through the same way. If you dial it from here, it goes to the step tandem and dials a 2. On the 3 level of the tandem, I found a trunk that flashes. It gives a supervision handshake when you first cut into it. The first time I tried to access this trunk, I got cut off for that reason. There's something about that flash that the coin system didn't like, and I found myself getting that busy signal that comes out of nowhere. Undaunted, I tried again, dialing 69 to get the tandem, then a 3. This time the flash was kind of muffled under all the pulse repeaters, and the coin system didn't notice it. To my surprise, I found I had to dial 5 digits into this trunk to finally get a recording.
We're sorry. We have a problem in completing your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator to help you. This is a recording, 904-732. We're sorry. We have a problem in completing your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator to help you. This is a recording, 904-732. We're sorry.
732 is one of the 2 codes that are reached on this same trunk group. The other code is 625. It's not clear whether the 2 codes are in the same building or whether one is reached through the other. Now, this office, 236, has direct trunks to the 625-732 office. So when I dial 732, it picks up a direct trunk to the office and dials the 2. Here's a call to 732, dialed normally. You'll notice that the trunks are different. They have a distinctive whine, which I've decided is almost certainly the sound of a long wire trunk, sounding pretty much like the trunks in Long Island, where adjacent trunks are oscillating. There's even a point where you can hear MF crosstalk. Here's the first call going over one of these trunks. Let's dial the other code, 625, which will cause this office to pick up a direct trunk and dial a 5, and then it'll repeat my last 4 digits. And even though I dialed 625, we'll still get the recording that says 732.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling, 904-732. You have reached a number that is not in...
The 4 level of the tandem has the 694 code, of course. That call answered, and I don't recall whether they had supervision grace or not. But the fact that I kind of fumbled around after that call suggests that I did lose my coin deposit. So though I don't know for sure, I suspect there was no supervision grace. Now the 5 level on the tandem has the 245 code. Here's a call to 245 dialed first the direct control way by dialing 69 to get the tandem, and then 5, and then a 0, which is a vacant level.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling, 904-245.
That was on a 2600 carrier, and the recording, maybe just because it was so loud, triggered a supervision flash, and I lost my dime, as we'll see, because in the next call, I used nickels. I'm definitely running out of dimes here. So there's no supervision grace. That call proved it. Here's a call to a 245 ringing number. On the first 2 digits, 24, it gets the tandem, and then the 5 is repeated after I dial it. That selects 245, and again we get a carrier trunk. When calling from a motor switch office to a motor switch office, you get to hear some things that you wouldn't hear on an intra-office call. Very often you'll hear a hunting noise on the incoming side. And one of the things we can do with this tandem is call back into 236, the office we're calling from, via the tandem. This gives us a different sound than we would get if we were making an intra-office call. And so here's a call to 236, putting it through the tandem. I'll dial 69 to get the tandem, 6 to select 236, and then 4 digits, and we'll actually get to hear a motor switch sound on the incoming side. So here's 236 via the tandem. Here's another intra-office call routed through the tandem, this time to intercept. Interestingly, once I get the busy signal at the end of the intercept message, I dial a few digits over it and you can hear several register senders in operation, including the one on the incoming side of 236. So you get an extra register sender, just as Mark Bernay was talking about how you could get a recording and dial and you'd hear all those digits being repeated by all those register senders, including the incoming one.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling. 904-236.
It started to give me a new dial tone without returning my coin, and I just decided not to use it. I figured I was going to get that loud reorder again. Well, now let's try dialing a 236 busy number, in this case my own, without going through the tandem. And you'll notice we don't hear during the last 4 digits. It's funny how you get to hear more interesting motor switch stuff if you go out to the tandem and back than if you dial directly. Here's a ringing number dialed normally. Comparing this to the 1982 recordings, you can see the tone plant changed. Here's the way the local ring was in 1982. Now, in 1978, we still have a passive step tandem downtown, and on the 7 level is the 237 code. 237 is an XY in Ocala. Here's a call to it dialed normally. That went through the tandem. All it did was wait till I dialed 237, then it got the tandem trunk and dialed a 7. This time, let's call the vacant level in 237 the other way. I'll dial 69 to get the tandem, 7 to select 237 myself, and then one more digit that's a vacant level.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance in the area to which you are calling, 904-237.
I dialed a digit there at the end just to make sure there wasn't another register sender on the terminating end. There wasn't. It's an XY. Had it been a motor switch office, there would have been another register sender. So now we have actually touched upon all of the offices in Ocala, and we've got part of the tandem's selector logic mapped out. Here's what we've learned so far. On 2 and 9 is the 622 and 629 office. It is a Stromberg XY. Very likely it's the same switch as the tandem itself, and it has two ringing machines. One sounds like this, and the other sounds like this. On the 3 level of the first selector in the tandem, there's a 5-digit trunk to the 732-625 office. It's some sort of an electronic office. It actually gives a flash handshake when you hit the trunk, and it rings like this. Now from here, 236, the tandem is not used. 236 has direct trunks to this office, and those are on what sounds like a long wire trunk. So it ends up sounding like this. On 4, we have the 694 Stromberg XY, which rings like this. Meanwhile, on 7, we have 237, also an XY, and it rings like this. I think that's an example of two of the same model Stromberg ringing machine that sound very much alike, but not exactly. Here's 694 followed by 237 again. Ah, the old network was like that. You could have two ringing machines that were the same model and yet they were distinct. Now 236 is a motor switch office we're calling from here, and that's what's on the 6th level of the tandem. Of course, this office doesn't use the tandem to call itself. We can arrange for it to do that, but it normally doesn't. And this office, at least in 1978, rings like this. Has all those little bursts of the low tone leaking in between and during the rings. Another place we hear that ringtone, of course, is the vacant code recording, which has John Doyle on it. We heard this before on the 2-digit vacant code 36. This may fundamentally be the same, but here's 621, a 3-digit vacant code.
I'm sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording. 904-236. I'm sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed.
Sir, you're shouting.
Yes, that protector thing really does get triggered by this and several other recordings that we've heard. It's dumb.
Well, there's no reason to take that attitude, sir. It's simple company policy.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's a thing with a fuse that's part of a ruse to make an excuse to say we can't use something like juice. And we know that didn't harm your 1970s network, so what the hell is a Carter phone gonna do to it? Oh, goodness. You know, you have to feel sorry for the engineers who, in earnest, designed equipment specifically intended to protect the fragile network from a malfunction in a customer-provided piece of equipment. And they actually put in the relays and the fuses and the limiting resistors and... unbelievable. And they had so many different models of those silly things. Anyway, the other level that we mapped was the 5 level. It went on an SF trunk to the 245 code, which is in Bellevue. It rings like this. And the equipment type is not clear from the tapes, but it's probably a step or an XY. I actually am going to finish the map of the tandem, but for now, how about a few long-distance and operator calls? Now, listening to the tapes in this order, I'm surprised to find that the long-distance system that we heard in 1982 was actually here in 1978. When it gets the outgoing trunk and MFs out, you only hear the receive path. That's kind of cool. I don't know what system this is. Anyway, here's a 1+ call.
One moment for coin deposit. Hello?
Yeah.
You want to pay here?
Mm-hmm.
You want to pay here, sir?
Yeah.
One moment. Be 2:15 when it answers. But wait until they answer. Just a moment. It is busy, sir. Would you try in a few minutes?
Yes, I just rudely hung up, and it took a couple of flashes to get completely disconnected. Here's what happened when I dialed 1+218-555 and then something other than 1212.
One moment for coin deposit. Rate step for 218 and 555 from Ocala. 555? Is that the number you dialed?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Hello, sir?
Yes.
You've got a wrong number someplace.
Oh, okay, I'll check it and dial again.
Okay.
I'll call it later, thank you.
I'd love to know what was going on while we were on hold there. One operator was explaining to the other that you don't call Rate and Root asking for a rate step on 555, at least not in 1978. That's probably the first time the Rate and Root operator's ever gotten that kind of a request. Here's Just Zero.
Sorry, may I help you?
Yeah. What do I dial for local information here?
411.
411?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I was flashing while talking to her. That's what those clicks were, not to be confused with these.
You have reached a number that is not in service at this time. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or dial directory assistance.
And a gracious good afternoon to you.
You know, that thing that cut down the volume has driven me nuts because I'm real sensitive to the tape noise, and listening to this program, as quaint and cool as it is, has worn me out. So I would recommend going on to the next program, just not immediately. I don't know if the tape noise is going to tire other people out like it does me. But I would listen to some other phone tape, something more bright and sparkly. I don't know, Long Distance Part 4 maybe, before going on to the next, which continues the mapping of the tandem, and it finishes it. We'll be touching upon the suburbs of Ocala. Many of these are not Florida telephone. A few of them are. There's actually a motor switch or two out there as well. And at some point I'll digress and talk about yet another change in the format of Bell Systems AIS. You see, Jacksonville was the flagship for a brand new format, major revision in the AIS announcing protocol. It was so new that it even included this famous Bell Systems slogan,
Is not in service.
which is pretty funny because we were ribbing the phone company 4 years ago in a satire for one recording which quite accidentally did this.
Is not in service or temporary disconnected.
Then 4 years later, they programmed the thing so that all the AISs with this new program, until the fix is in, do this.
Is not in service.
Life imitates satire sometimes.